For all of you who listen to Mac East Second Floor Studios presents Submersion and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android device. I use the app and I love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure to set Mac East Second Floor Studios as a favorite so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Again, the app is the Podcast Republic app, available on Android devices.
I wish I were a fish. Fish have a better life than people.
Episode 21.
Woo!
This podcast can drink, boys.
Wow.
Who's a sponsor this week, Kyle?
Ooh. I wish it was Natty Light. That'd be cool.
If
Bud
we could
Light
get them.
Lime.
Oh, no.
Tweet at Natty Light, whoever makes it.
Grab Life by the Stones.
Is that Keystone?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see they got Bud Light Orange now?
People love that, apparently.
Really?
They were trying to sell it to me for my birthday in Kentucky, and I said, fuck no.
Yeah, no thanks.
Oh, yeah. So you did just have a big old birthday.
3-0, guys. The 3-0.
Wow, you're like a youngster. I'm like way older.
Jamie's really old.
I'm actually 56 years old.
See, I would have guessed 58, but okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. More mature. I sound more mature than my years.
Oh, man. So you went down to what I would consider heaven on earth.
Yeah, I was originally going to go to Toronto, and when I checked the weather as thunderstorms, I was like, well, screw that. Let's go to Lake Cumberland. I don't know why I didn't think about that in the first place. So we went down there, got a place, did some boating, did some drinking, did a lot of eating, too.
I feel like it's actually the real story is that you were so disappointed in the Raptors getting destroyed by the Cavs. You were like, I just can't. I'm so disappointed in you.
What are Cavs and Raptors?
That's the NBA basketball playoffs. You guys are such nerds.
No, Zach asked me the other night if I was watching the Cavs game.
I know.
So
You're like, is that a Cavs Raptors? Is that a Dungeons and Dragons different booklet, or what are we talking about here?
No, I am aware that the Cavs have been getting their asses kicked. So,
Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
in this series, very different story. Very different.
Go
story.
Celtics.
Jamie's from out east, so that's his team. He's like the one guy in the state rooting for the Celtics.
Yep, I got my Ricky Buckets jersey at home that I put on. No one even knows who that is because it was a player that I got the jersey of, and he was traded like a month later, and I was really sad. I was like a child. Yeah, I was like, but why, Ricky Buckets?
And your parents have got you this jersey.
No, I bought it myself.
Oh, okay.
I was at a game. I was like, Paul Pierce, we're trading Paul Pierce. I need to get this Ricky Buckets jersey. And of course, Paul Pierce went on to be on our team like forever. And Ricky Buckets was traded immediately and was a terrible player.
But you've got the jersey, man.
I do.
That's what's awesome.
I've got a 30-year-old Boston Celtics shirt I wear all the time. My mom's from Boston, so if the Cavs have to lose to somebody, it's probably Boston. So I can still rep some gear in a few weeks here.
I have a nice white T-shirt that I like to wear sometimes.
Good.
Oh,
That's cool.
it's very nice.
Is it like an undershirt or is it just, like a normal shirt?
It's a normal white T-shirt that you could wear as an undershirt, but I choose not to.
Oh, you're breaking the norm.
There's a few bars that won't let you in if you're wearing a plain white tee. So
Yeah, there is.
there's some inconvenience of wearing a nice white T-shirt like that.
Yeah. It's
Did
just,
we ask why? I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, there we go.
Straight into it. Yeah. Forget that story. We're not asking why.
We could use that siren.
I was debating earlier, but like, now's the time.
We'll let the story play out. All right, that was a mistake.
Yeah. What began as an innocent conversation among friends would soon spiral out of control and later be referred to by future generations as the eighth wonder of the modern world. Mac East Second Floor Studios takes you on the journey of your lifetime as your captains, Alex the Mustard Man, the artist formerly known as Brom, Jamie the Brain, Kyle El Capitan, and Zach the Backbone present Submersion. Zach, you seem pretty enthusiastic about this movie. You want to tell everybody what movie we had the pleasure of watching this week?
Oh man, this movie had fish. This movie had cartoons. This movie had I think a love triangle. That movie's Top Gun. So it's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Well, Top Gun's back, I guess.
The Incredible Mr. Limpet. It was released in 1964, which some people might remember as the 60s.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's The Incredible Mr. Limp Dick. Am I right?
Okay.
The Incredible Mr.
Terrible
Limp
pun.
Starring Fred Durst.
Terrible
There
pun.
we go.
I gotta mention while we're pulling puns, I didn't catch it a couple weeks ago. It would have been, what episode would that have been? Operation Petticoat. I was talking about a sub double play.
Yeah.
And Kyle said, "Wow, that was very subtle."
Yeah, he did. He said,
and that was the most subtle pun of all, and I didn't even pick up on it.
It was a subtle
pun. It was
pun.
so subtle that I didn't.
Dude, that's what I'm
that
all
needs
about.
to be our T-shirt right there. That's great.
There's something there. There's something.
Subtle pun.
Subtle pun. And on the back it just says
The shirt's a
Submersion.
subtle pun. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
At least a bumper sticker.
All right. Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Starring the one, the only
Tom Cruise.
Jonathan Knotts.
That's right.
Don Knotts.
And so he was a huge star. This was part of a 5-movie contract he had signed. One of the few movies he did after, or part of the contract that took him off of Andy Griffith's show. So he'd been on the Andy Griffith show. He left that thinking the series was going to end, and he started this contract to make 5 movies, I think. And this was one of those 5.
I thought you were going to start that with this was the first of a 5-movie contract
series?
for Mr.
Mr.
Limpet.
Limpet, no, this is 4 more of them.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah. No, but although this was directed and produced by the guy who did the Francis the Mule, Talking Mule, and there were like 20 of those movies. He just kept on churning those out. There were a lot of Francis Talking Mule films.
Hey, we still might get a sequel for this movie.
We could.
That question mark.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the story begins September 1941. It's actually before the U.S. was in the war, World War II. But we have a bookkeeper by the name of Henry Limpet, played by Don Knotts, who dreams of being in the Navy. He really wants to contribute to what would be the war effort if they were to enter the war, and he kind of sees a boat being launched and imagines himself being an officer at the wheel. And of course, all the women who are working in the company that he works at are all like laughing at him. Because what a buffoon, right?
Yeah.
And basically it's populated by women because a lot of men at that point had already joined the Army or Navy, and he just has failed multiple times of getting through the process. So he's classified 4F because of his eyesight and because he has an equilibrium problem, as he says a couple times.
Yes,
and
does.
he cannot qualify for actually getting into the Navy.
And one of his coworkers is talking to him. Is like,
everybody can't be a hero, Mr. Limpet. We need men like you at home, too.
Why?
Well, to give to the blood bank, of course.
Well, they don't want my blood either.
Well, there's always your job here at the office.
Miss Barnes, my job here isn't that important. I mean, they could hire almost anybody to replace me.
Well, anyway, I'm sure your wife will be happy to know you'll never be called.
Well, I hope so. But Bessie's very patriotic.
I was like, this is the Don Knotts I love right here.
Yeah. He's like, I'm a giant piece of shit. Okay. I understand that. I recognize that. Like, get out of my face because I suck. Yeah. And then, of course, we get his other personality, other than being completely useless and a garbage person. We get his other characteristic, which is a woman screams, "Oh!" What does she find? She finds a fish in the water cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Great
like, that's my fish.
It was a great fish.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, no, that's mine," it's just bad. That's just bad office, being a good office mate. Like, you can't put a fish into a water thing. Like, who wants to drink that water anymore?
Yeah. Fish piss.
Your fish is pooping all up in that thing.
Yeah.
That's when I turned it off. Didn't watch the rest of this
This
film.
would never happen in my office.
No, turn this off. This is unbelievable. Movie magic is gone. So anyways, he also gets a call from his wife, and his wife sounds, it's kind of funny. She sounds awful in this first part. And she's like, "Did you make it?" And he's like, "I'm classified 4F. You didn't make it again." And then she's like, "Do you know who stopped by? George Stickle." And
Stickle?
It's like, oh man. And you can see he really doesn't care for George all that much. And it's like, ah, shit. So,
They're kind of they're
friends.
frenemies.
Yeah, they're friends, but they are as opposite as can be. So it causes some strife.
It's like you, Kyle, with everybody.
I know.
Right. And then the wife's also like, "Don't stop at that pet store again." And he's like, "Oh, I won't." And of course, on his way home, he stops by this pet store, looks in. He looks on, kind of longingly at the fish. Oh boy, would he want to be a fish?
Yep.
Alas, he's a human. And so he ends up going home. And there's George.
Hiding behind the door.
Yeah. And he's pretty braggadocious with his new armbands. So he's been promoted. He's a machinist second class. And he's kind of showing off a little bit, being a macho man, kind of telling of his different feats in war. And like, "Oh, man, so are you going to be joining up?" "Oh, I guess you are 4F. I was not. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But he's in his own world a little bit. He loves his fish. So he starts to take care of his fish tank. And his wife comes in and is kind of like, "George is here. It's so much fun. Let's go do something
Because
fun."
she's very patriotic.
Very patriotic, wants him to be in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And also kind of like wants to have fun. But
Yes.
Don
But
Knotts,
her idea of fun and his is different. So it was pretty funny because George is like, "Hey guys, let's all go out dancing." And Bessie's like, "Oh yes, that'd be so great." And Henry is like, "Hey,
You know, George, he's going to talk about the mating habits of the shellfish. It's a little risque. Sort of for adults only, you know.
I'll just pass on that action, Henry. I got a weak heart.
and this is a little foreshadowing, telling that he is not only interested, in fish and owning fish, but sexually interested in fish. Which comes up later.
Oh, yes, it does.
It's actually most of this movie. So anyways, they decide actually in the end that they're going to go down to Coney Island instead. So, okay, we'll go down to Coney Island, forget the lecture, forget dancing, but we're going to go to Coney Island. And he also kind of bungles his aquarium and spills water on the floor. So she also forces him to get rid of his big fish tank.
ultimatum.
Yeah.
It's either me or that fish tank."
And he hesitates for a while.
I thought we were just going to see him leave with the fish.
Yeah,
in a
I thought
bowl.
so too. I thought it was like, oh, this is where the end of this. This is where he's like going to be kind of semi heartbroken, but has his fish, and then he's going to be turned into a fish. Nope. He gives up his fish. They're heading to Coney Island, and they end up on the dock. And this is a funny thing too. It's like, you think about how this movie's written. A lot of it's these jokes for Don Knotts and all that stuff. But here is a moment where our main character is supposed to be transformed magically into a fish. Now, how is he going to be magically transformed into a fish? Normally, he wishes on a wishing machine, or finds a coin that looks real strange, or he touches a meteorite that's fallen from the sky. Anything. What actually happens?
Nobody really knows.
Nope.
He just falls off
Just
the
falls
dock.
into the water and turns into a fish.
Yes.
Like, what? Why?
But I think right
How?
before it, I think he says "Oh, I wish I were a fish." But then,
But wishes. Oh, and we do get from the song. They say you got to be careful what you wish for because wishes might come true, or something.
I need
something
that
like
soundtrack.
Something to that effect. Oh, Kyle can insert it. We're just going to play the whole soundtrack as part of this episode.
At
right?
the end.
are you looking for it right now online?
I am.
And so, anyways, he turns into this fish, and it's got glasses and everything. He's got actually very peculiar glasses. There are ones where it doesn't actually have it go behind the ears. It pinches his nose instead. Mm-hmm. So it's very distinct glasses as well. And George, being literally a hero, he's he's supposed to be kind of this character. You're like, oh, what an asshole, what a dick, kind of. And then he jumps in twice trying to find Henry when he's fallen into the water, and nearly he's exhausted. He's I'm going again, and jumps in. I'm like, oh, this guy's actually a good dude. He's actually a good guy
Because he's trying to also bang Bessie.
Oh, he definitely wants to get in Bessie pants.
Yeah.
Anyways, now he's a fish.
Yeah. But it was also kind of funny because they're like, well, Henry just drowned, and they're like, well, let's just go home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's kind of the end of that. And they're like, we got to get you home. She's going home. It's like, he's literally fallen to the water. 5 minutes later, they're both jetting. They're like, you know what? We really should just be heading home real quick.
This ruined this trip. Thanks, Henry.
Yeah. So he's swimming around. He's like, oh, I should be by Florida, which is crazy because they started in Brooklyn and, Coney Island area. Mm-hmm. And he heads up to, he heads up above the water and finds out that they've actually joined the war. So officially Pearl Harbor has happened and we have joined the war. That's like a little tidbit that you get in there.
Yeah.
But he also has like a bunch of random misadventures.
Yeah.
Like he gets chased by a shark.
And then that's where he meets his new sidekick, Krusty.
Oh, Krusty. Boy.
And he's a tough-talking crustacean.
If this was cast, if I cast this now, I'd cast you as Krusty.
Oh, really? That'd be nice.
I think your voice would lend itself nicely to that.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'd be Mr. Limpet.
I could see it. I agree with that. Kyle's a crusty person.
I am Krusty.
Yeah. I think we should just remake it. We'd have to make up 2 other sidekicks for Brom and Zac, and then a bottle of mustard sidekick for Mustard Man. It's a talking bottle of mustard.
No, the mustard could be pollution.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a meditation on really global warming and the impact that humans have on the environment. Just get a little serious right now.
All right. So anyways, he gets absolutely berated by Krusty. He's like, what are you doing in my cave? Like, get out of here.
He's a little hermit crab.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Good impression, actually.
He's got a really good mustache.
Mm-hmm.
So I was instantly attached to him.
Yeah. You were
like
in love.
Yes.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, Krusty's like, you got to get out of here. A shark shows up.
Yep.
Limpet uses this sonic boom attack.
He's like, wow, or whatever it was. Wow.
Sonic boom.
Something like that. Yeah. And just knocks the shark away. Like totally destroys that shark. That shark's dead.
Yeah.
And then what else? He
fights an octopus immediately.
That's right. Yep.
And then he just takes Krusty and they go find a shipwreck.
Yeah. And they end up in that shipwreck and they're kind of looking around. I was waiting for like the animated dead bodies on that shipwreck because it was a ship that was destroyed by a U-boat. So clearly there'd be some dead bodies like just like floating around in there. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately they didn't animate that. I'm not sure why for the children's movie.
They actually should have.
And then the next thing he sees is a fish, another fish, kind of struggling with a fishing line. She's been caught. I guess we don't know yet that she's a she, but this fish has been caught. And he goes out and he snaps the line with his teeth, his big human teeth. And then what else? Then is there sonic boom? He uses a sonic boom again, right? Saves them from something else, right?
A barracuda.
A barracuda start coming. Yeah.
But this fish is
smoking hot. Oh my God. I was looking at that fish. I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
I am into that.
I hope my wife doesn't walk in.
I know.
Yeah, I watched this on Saturday night and I had to go to confession on Sunday.
Yeah. I had to pull a pillow over my lap real quick. I was like, oh.
I thoroughly enjoyed everything.
And she's basically like, I don't have a name. I don't even know a concept of names. I was like, oh, I'll call you Ladyfish. And now I'm in love with you. It's like, wait, what? And then she's like, you saved my life. Let's go to the spawning grounds. Dude, and he's like, you, oh man. And then they swim around for a while being like, in love, a fish in love. And I'm like, wait, are they going to fuck right now?
It looked like it.
It really did. Cause they swim around for a real long time. And then
she gets close to him.
Oh my God, she's way into it,
all over him.
Oh man, what's weird is he's kind of into it too. Yeah. It's weird to think that he was a human 5 seconds ago, and now he's like, ooh, check that out.
And she makes that one line where she's just like, I just turned old enough to do this, or something.
Yeah. And he's like, ooh.
Yeah, because he's like,
say, do you run off to those spawning grounds with every Tom, Dick, and fish that comes along?
Oh no. See, up until now I've been too young.
Yes, of course, I understand.
Yeah. And so she's, and so she's, or he's like, oh, I gotta tell you something. I don't feel right about this, about, boning a fish. It's not about boning a fish and the fact that I'm actually a human. It's actually that I have a wife. And she's like, oh, I don't care about that. I'm a fish. I literally don't have a concept of a name. I don't know what you're talking about. Wife? Like, what is that?
He's like, well, I have another ladyfish. She's like, whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. Put it inside me and let's spawn some babies. And he's like, that's real strange for a children's movie. But I'm into it as well because I'm way into fish all of a sudden and I'm in love with you somehow. Anyways.
Is this the part where he was trying to swim away and all of a sudden a photograph of the wife's face flashed?
Yeah. He keeps on seeing his wife and he's like, I can't do it.
That was so funny to me.
Yeah.
So unexpected. Cracked me up.
So he kind
Crack
of
me
scares
up.
her off, but he's feeling kind of bad about it. So he tells Krusty, like, watch out for her. Like, I tell her I love her if you see her again.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go off and do my duty because he's still really into the idea of serving the Navy. So he finds this ship that's dropping depth charges. God, how many depth charges have we had? Like, just over and over again.
Yeah.
And there's also a German U-boat. And there's also a German U-boat that hears its thrum. That's one thing.
Yep.
So like it kind of, and they're able to communicate back to the Nazi homeland that there's this new kind of seemingly a weapon out there that makes this noise, and that'll come into play later. But anyways, with this boat, he kind of goes up and starts to talk to the boat. It's like, oh, you're shooting in the wrong area. He's kind of like screaming to them from the water.
Yeah,
they're like, who's out there?
Like, I don't know. I'm just a friend.
Don't shine a light on him. He doesn't want to show that he's a fish. He doesn't trust that they'd believe that a talking fish was helping them. Like, but who wouldn't believe that?
Right.
It only makes sense.
If a fish was talking to me,
Yeah, I'd be like,
you guys would probably call a doctor for me and be like, have that guy committed.
I'd probably call a doctor to make sure you didn't fuck that fish because it was probably real sexy and you were super into it.
Yeah.
Ayo. Anyways, I don't know. And anyway, so like
doctor, check this guy. Did he fuck a fish? I can't tell. We don't have a test for that.
Yeah. Don't have sexually transmitted diseases from fish? Nothing? Oh, all right. And so he starts to talk to them on a microphone, and he basically says, like, you got to listen to my stuff. So they start listening to him, and he helps them destroy this U-boat.
They just dead on crush this thing.
And he's like, he comes back up on the sea, and he's like, oh, now you see I'm a friend. And they're kind of shooting at him, or they want to shine the light on him. They're shooting at him and stuff like that. And he's like, hey, didn't I just help you?
Yeah.
Like, my one thing is like, don't shine a light on me, but like get George Stickle. And he's like, Pickle? And that becomes a running gag.
Oh my gosh. Just Don Knotts' voice is just so funny. Yeah. Like, get me George Stickle. Pickle? Not Pickle.
Yeah,
Stickle.
Stickle.
You say you want to meet with somebody called Pickle?
Not Pickle. Stickle. Machinist mate, second class, George Stickle.
And so then they end up getting him. They go back to the headquarters of the U.S. and they're basically like, we got a new secret weapon. I'm totes like, getting this together. Don't worry about it. It's going to be the best. And, but we need this one guy, George Stickle.
Yeah.
And, Stickle Pickle.
How many times they do that? Even at the very end of the movie, they're still doing it.
Oh yeah. We forgot to mention there is a framing, but anyways.
Yeah.
And so, they end up getting George out there, and George goes out in a little lifeboat, and he gets to see
He's
Henry.
nervous as hell.
And this is weird. He played it kind of strange because he's nervous the whole time, and eventually he sees Henry, and it proves that he tells a bunch of stories about their life together.
And these stories were very funny because they were all stories like,
You remember how you used to come over to our apartment on Friday nights? You and Bessie would sit up till all hours playing poker while I read myself to sleep?
That's right. Regular as clockwork every Friday night.
And how about the time the three of us went to the Bronx Zoo? Remember? I got separated from you and Bessie, and I had to walk home. Bessie had my cash.
That cracked my shit up, guy.
Yeah. And so George's like, wait a second, like only Henry would know that. Only Henry Limp Bizkit would know that. And he's like, you must be Henry. But he kept on being nervous. Like he was like, okay, I'll definitely I'll tell him. And when he rode away, I'm like, is he going to actually not tell him or whatever? Nope. He becomes a secret weapon. George kind of rises up the ranks with Henry. There's a couple of demands through time. He says he wants a pension. He wants to officially be in the Navy, and he wants a pension to go to Bessie. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of providing for Bessie at the same time that kind of they're going through this whole thing.
Yeah, Henry's rising through the ranks a lot faster.
Oh yeah.
But Limpet, after he makes those demands, does get promoted to lieutenant.
Yeah,
and it's pretty awesome because all of a sudden we get a super patriotic song. We even start seeing like Limpet's face on Mount Rushmore. And all sorts of crazy stuff.
It's great. Not his fish face, his like regular face, right?
No, it was the fish face. It was the fish face.
They would put a fish face up there? That's weird. Anyways, it doesn't seem to be the correct. And we also get some flash sideways to Nazi Germany, where they're developing a torpedo that's supposed to hone in on his special beacon that he does.
And did you see what they named it? The thing that was emitting the sound?
No.
It was just called Das Limpet.
Yeah, it was. I went back, Kyle, and watched that scene just to make sure I read that right.
I did have a question though. Did your copy have subtitles?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if I was.
Oh yeah, it was
subtitles.
the whole time the Germans were talking in German. There were no subtitles.
Well, it wasn't really German, but
right. It was like stuff enough where like.
Oh, you just get the context. Yeah. No, I just didn't know because sometimes that happens. So, anyways, they have a big convoy going out. So the new plan is they're going to do the landing in Europe. So America's going in, and actually would have been landing in Africa. That's where we first landed for World War II. But they're going off towards Europe to do the initial invasion. And so they have all these boats going out, and they're like, okay, we need to kind of combat the U-boats. And so your secret weapon, Henry Limpet, is like a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
he's got to lead this convoy.
Yeah, but he gets into a little bit of trouble because he loses his glasses. How did he lose his glasses again?
A manta ray tries to. A manta ray knocks his glasses off.
And that's all you said about it. And so he knocks off his glasses and he's basically blind. And so he tells George to like get Bessie to get his glasses, right? Yeah. Get new glasses for him. And in the meantime, he picks up Krusty to kind of help him out, right?
Well,
am I forgetting this? I started to fade a little bit.
Yeah, you should. Come on.
Falling asleep a little bit right now.
You should not be. So anyway, Krusty finds Ladyfish. She swims back and he's like, hey, it's time.
Yeah.
Henry still loves you. She's like, oh my God, I do declare.
Right.
And so all of a sudden they start hearing the sonic booms and Limpet shows back up. But now he does need Krusty because Krusty wanted to help before. But Limpet was like, you got to wait here. Look for Ladyfish. That's my one true love.
Right.
And so now little hermit crab eyes are the eyes of the entire U.S. convoy.
Right. And so there's all these, I mean, there are so many U-boats. It's nuts.
I think it's the most we've had on screen at any one time in any movie we've seen so far.
Like 15 of them or something? They were crazy. There were so many submarines around.
Yeah. Well, even earlier in the movie, they're like, there's so many U-boats in the ocean, you could walk to Europe on them.
Yeah. That was a little bit of exaggeration, probably. Probably, right?
No.
There wasn't that many U-boats, was there? Was there? Oh my God, was there?
There were millions.
Oh my God. Anyways.
I don't know what Stickles' like motive was for saying that on the subway. Like everyone was like staring at him and then he's just like, yeah, you heard what I said.
He's just a braggart. He's a little bit of a braggart. And so they're able to survive. They're able to kind of use the torpedoes against them. So he kind of can go near a U-boat, do his little
because
noise.
The torpedoes work.
Yeah.
They're honing in on the noise that Limpet used to use to, designate that there's a U-boat.
Yeah.
So they start chasing him. He's flying all around, but then he realizes, if I swim directly back at the boat, this will just smack right into him and blow him up.
And so they basically kill themselves with these Limpet
Das Limpets.
Yeah, Das Limpets. The Das Limpets are the best weapon that the Allies ever had, essentially. And so he saves the day. He's like a hero. He swims over to Coney Island to kind of say like goodbye forever, my love, Bessie. Like I found my new love, this sexy fish. Look at how sexy she is. I'm super into fish now. Like, don't worry about it. I love fish. I love fucking fish. And then also, can you give me my glasses? And she does. And so he gets some glasses. And in the meantime, Bessie's also fallen in love with George. So everything seems fine. He's like, well, I'm still into humans and George is a human. So,
because there's all this talk. She's like, well, are we still married? He's like, well, what would the neighbors think? If I was just a fish, you can't keep me in the bathtub.
Hint, hint, I have this other fish underneath me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he kind of kept her hidden.
He completely did, and she kept tugging on his fin.
Yeah.
Because Ladyfish was way hotter than Bessie, and she didn't want... They didn't want her to get embarrassed.
It was one of my favorite scenes, is when the ladyfish straight up, like, what did she say? She's not much to look at.
Yeah, making fun of her. It's weird, too, because the whole thing is set up with Don Knotts being obsessed with fish, and then he falls in love with a fish and is going to spend his life, even though he's got a brain of a human being, like having sex with this fish and being with this fish. It's like, this is a very strange story of a guy who's into bestiality. Like, it's just a really strange children's story.
100%.
Like, guys, if honestly, if you were turned into fish, would you fuck fish?
Oh,
no.
God.
Well, you had your human brain.
How do fish reproduce?
Don't they just swim through, like, sperm?
Just spray sperm everywhere.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's any like.
Doesn't sound as like much fun. Although it's probably going to be rare to find a human that would want to have sex with me if I was a fish, though. Like really rare.
Yeah, I don't want to get too crass on the podcast, but
yeah,
we can bleep.
Anyways,
we can bleep anything out.
All right. Well, feel free to bleep this out. It would essentially just be like beaten off over the female, sex organ or whatever.
Anyways.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
So he swims off with ladyfish, and they obviously have sex. They probably have like 1 million children because fish have like lots of children. Mm-hmm. And there's basically like human-fish hybrid children out there. And so then we forgot to mention there was a framing story where they were like, they thought that Henry Limpet had come back into like, he had been training porpoises. Yeah, we're at the framing story.
Oh, yeah, we're close.
So they had to reopen his file because they were worried he was training porpoises to be weapons. And they needed George Prickle to go out there and check out like if that was true or whatever. So we flash back up to 1964. And George and the guy who was the captain, who are now like really high ranking in the Navy, have to go out, and they go out with the admiral as well. Mm-hmm. And they go out to like see if they could talk to Henry Limpet, like, oh, hey, like, how you doing? We need to ask about the porpoises. And they ask if he wants to be back in the Navy or a commission in the Navy or whatever. And then it just kind of ends. So like, it's like a question mark, like whether they actually talk to him again.
And then they, like right before the credits roll, there was this amazing theme song that goes on. It starts like,
yeah.
Henry Limpet, your name will live forever. America owes everything to you.
America owes everything to you. America owes everything to Henry Limpet, the man who turned into a fish.
Like the most epic thing you could ever say.
It's
America owes everything to you.
There really should have been a sequel. There really should have been a sequel where he helped like drop.
There is a sequel. It's called Team America.
Because it would be funny if like every single thing, it's like the invasion of Normandy. Oh no, his role in playing. Oh, it actually wasn't the heroes that were there. It was this one man who was turned into a fish that did everything. It's like, oh, when dropping the A-bombs, like, it wasn't. It was actually Henry Limpet. He was turned into a bird and dropped the A-bomb.
We got to make the sequel to this movie like they do in Lethal Weapon with It's Always Sunny. We got to make the sequel.
Henry Limpet movies.
Yes, like 4 of them.
I would be totally down for that.
All right. Well, that was what we got. It was a crazy movie. It's a really weird movie.
Yes, it is. Very sexy fish. Mm-hmm. Something we haven't seen before. We did say on the last podcast, so we missed hearing fish, when they fire a torpedo.
Not this fish.
No.
Overcompensation.
Yes. All right, Brom.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yep.
Got to start
of any movie, this is probably the one I want to go last on, because I can't tell if you guys are like ironically enjoying this movie or seriously enjoying this movie.
Let's start with Zach.
Just be honest with yourself then. Just be honest with yourself, Brom.
I'll go. This movie... This movie drove me to the bottle, guys.
That's a good thing, though, right, Ben?
The Incredible Mr. Limpet. Okay, it had. It's rant time. There was no theme, no message to this movie. I got in halfway through this movie, like, oh, you see how this is shaping up. He's turned into a fish. It's going to be a be careful what you wish for situation where he's going to realize, just because you want to be a fish, you can't be a fish. You got obligations. You got a wife that you got to care for, all this. He's going to come back. He's going to realize how much he misses Bessie. And he's going to come back and he learned his lesson, and now he's going to be a better husband than he ever could have been because he's been through this trial and tribulation that no one else will ever experience. He's been turned into a fish through some bizarre magical process. I was dead wrong. you get to the end of the movie, this guy still wants to be a fish, and as we alluded to, like everything that goes with it, this is a really dark movie, and in some ways, like we alluded to, this bestiality. This guy is in love with fish, with a human brain.
He wants to fuck fish.
Just grinding up on this beautiful lady fish.
Getting his fish dick all up in that.
Yeah. That's why you love it, right, Ben?
This is why I do not love this movie. Everybody I mentioned this to, I know a couple Don Knotts fans, so I asked what their opinion was on this. And everyone always like goes to like, you know, even if you don't enjoy it, you know, you got to appreciate this was, you know, this was a triumph in animation and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, so then I look it up. Well, this was made in 1964. Just as like a point of reference, Pinocchio came out in 1940. This is 25 years after Pinocchio.
Yeah, this is not an achievement in animation, I don't think. I mean, I think it was done by some famous animators and stuff like that, but I don't think it's something where like people were like, "Oh, and then everything turned really when the Incredible Mr. Limpet happened." Then animation really took off. It's like, no, that didn't.
Yeah, no, and I mean, if you look at something like Pinocchio, which was 1940, and Bambi, which I think was 42, I think, those were movies that had very complex messages and you know, underpinnings that people still like, you know, write thesis and dissertations on to this day about like the messages about that are within those movies. Like there is a lot of complex subject matter in those movies that were directed at kids. And then you get to The Incredible Mr. Limpet that has no theme or no message. And it really felt like it was like, you could tell this was a contractual movie that they had Don Knotts and they needed to make a movie. They had animators ready. Like, what are we going to do? And to reference, you know, Matt Stone and Trey Parker again, they always like make fun of Family Guy for what they call manatee jokes. There was a episode about how manatees would pick the plot to Family Guy by swimming through a tank, and they would move balls, you know, these floating balls from one side of the pool to the other, and the balls had different words on them, and they would pull out 3 balls, and the 3 words would make the plot of a movie. And this felt like a manatee joke movie where they're like, we got Don Knotts, we got Nazis, and we got fish.
Fish. Yeah.
There's a movie here somewhere.
Man turned into fish. Oh man, how are we gonna do this one?
I would rather watch Stinger again than this.
Really? What's the score? We got to get the score.
Just because Don Knotts is in it, I got to give him an edge over Stinger. I'm going to give this a 1.
Wow. Whoa. All right, yeah. I'm going to say I'm not going to go that low, but I'm going to jump in here because I cannot agree more with Brom. This movie was meaningless. Like literally, like it's like a man turns into a fish. Okay, guys, how do we write this? Okay, so there's a man. And then he turns into a fish. Genius, we got it. He's like, there's nothing more to it. He's just like, he's sitting on a dock, he falls in the ocean, he turns into a fish. What happens next? He befriends a crab? Sure. He falls in love with a fish? That's a little strange. Like, nope, we're going for it. We literally had no other ideas on the board, so we're doing it.
And somebody says that as they're like stroking the face of their fish tank.
He's like, oh, maybe he has sex with a fish. It's like, what? Okay, we'll put down falls in love with fish. Anyways, that was weird. But yeah, no, it was like a meaningless, like kind of weirdly garbage film. And also for a point of reference, because I looked it up when you were talking about like the different animation, same year as Mary Poppins. Mm-hmm. Another film that takes live action mixed with some animation. And I would say Mary Poppins was slightly more successful than Incredible Mr. Limpet in that sense of what was going on. So I did not love this movie. I thought it was fairly boring, other than the parts where I thought maybe he would have sex with the other fish. Then I really
so you wanted it.
Perked up. I was like, no, it's a kid's movie, so I just was like, wait, what? I was waiting for them to imply it, like a heart-shaped thing like zooms away, and there's like a little like schwink as like the nightshade is pulled down or something. Yeah. And I'd be like, holy shit, they're having sex and they're fish. This movie's about fish having sex with each other. But it never really happened. It was always just implied, or he backed out at the last moment or whatever. If those fish had sex, I would have given this a 6. Instead, I'm giving it a 4.
Giving this a 4?
4.
Zach, I know
Dude.
you have differing opinions on this.
I'm so ready for this. This is quite possibly the most excited I've been about a movie yet. And the thing is that I agree 100% with Ben and Jamie, but the difference is in the score. I will straight up give this movie a 9.5.
Oh my God. You screwed up all the scores.
I've got the score Google sheet pulled up right now of all the movies.
Crimson Tide got a 0.5. Let's put that in context.
Yeah, exactly. But this movie
So Crimson Tide 0.5, Incredible Mr. Limpet 9.5.
The fact that this movie had no message, you didn't learn anything except the guy was just into fish. He even said, I guess Mother Nature must have messed up and then they corrected it. Like, he's straight up into fish. He's a freak.
He's a freak.
And like, that purple fish was such a slut. Like, she was like, she said things like, oh, I'll make you forget about her. And like, oh my God. Like, I watched this as a kid and I never picked up on any of that. So
I actually was thinking one of the funniest things to do would be if you have a kid to be like, oh, hey, like I have this movie and get them right at the right age, like 5 years old or something like that, where they're like bipping and bopping to the songs. There's a funny like animated fish where they're like, I love that movie. Let's watch it again. And I'd be like, of course. And then we watch it like 1,000,000 times until they're like whatever years old, 7 years old. And they stop watching it. And years later, they'd be like, wait, what was that movie? Like I used to watch all the time. Like, it was about like an animated fish, and I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what? What movie? What are you talking about? Eventually, they'd be like, Incredible Mr. Limpet! Oh my God!
And then they'd watch it.
And then they watch it and have that same reaction, where it'd
yeah,
be like,
what
holy
the
shit, what is this about?
That's why I loved it. It was funny to me. It was ridiculous. And I agree with you guys. I just give it a higher score.
A much higher score.
Like almost a perfect score.
Like I literally, I look at the movies that I've watched that I've been on the podcast for, and unfortunately I wasn't here for the first episode Phantom, but I had everything ready for Phantom. And I think Phantom's the only one I would have given a higher score than this movie.
Ooh. Well,
I
don't
can't
worry.
wait until you watch Das Boot and give it a lower score.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach fast forwards through just about every movie we've watched this far, and we finally find a movie that captivates him, and it's The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
I did not fast forward. I started at 1.5 times, and I dropped it to 1 because I was enjoying it so much. Like there's a straight 3 minutes with no dialogue in the beginning of the movie.
Oh no, yeah. And there's the time when he's like swimming around with the fish is like a really long time. That's why I was texting you. I was texting you guys being like, he's about to bone this fish. And then like 5 minutes later, when they finally finished singing a song about how he's going to bone the fish, he backs out of boning the fish. I was like, oh, he just backed out.
And I was like, hilarious.
The Pentagon scene, the very first scene, is so long. I was watching that, and I remember thinking like, oh, Zach's gone. It's done.
Yeah, that was a full 5 minutes, yeah.
Zach's turned this movie off at this point.
And here I'm
dead wrong.
Giving it a 9.5.
Even slowed it down to watch usual speed.
Cracking me up. Oh, God.
I'm like, what will Zach tell us about the poster on this one?
The poster on IMDb is ridiculous, but...
All right, let me jump in here. I agree with all of you guys. I think it's absolutely insane. I'm not going to go nearly as low as you two, Jamie and Brom. While there's certain things that I want, I wanted more subs, but everybody can rally behind sinking U-boats.
We got it. It was weird because we got a couple scenes where they jumped into the submarine for like a second.
Yeah.
Where German people, and then quickly like the German guy like took out his dick, but then he was like, it's a Das un children's Kinders film is what he said. And then he like put it back in.
Yeah.
And he realized. Yeah. He's like, oh, he wanted to be accurate, but he didn't want to be that accurate.
Yeah. I love Don Knotts. His voice to me is so funny. I do love his antics. So I wish we had. Do I even wish we had more real time with him? I don't know. I think he's so funny, but like the concept of this movie, like you guys said, is insane. It's just so out there. It's ridiculous. It's awesome that it's a kids movie and there's all this weird fish coitus about to go on.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge part of this movie.
It is.
Given how much we've talked about it, you'd be like, oh, they're really focusing in on this minute detail in the film. Oh, it's not minute.
It's like 25 minutes.
A big part is him like falling in love with this fish and wanting to find that fish.
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and what do I give this thing?
Come on, Kyle.
I'm going with a 6.
Nice.
We really spread it right out.
0.25.
We spread it like some peanut butter and bread, just like all over the place.
Yeah.
Easily
Perfect.
the most diverse film in terms of score. Easily.
I would have loved to have heard the Mustard Man score on
I know.
this.
I miss him. I wish he was on some of these because I feel like I'm the closest to him in terms of like what the scores we do. And so I've been curious on some of these where there's been some more disparate results, whether we landed in the same spot like we have in the past a little bit.
I mean, I even know some of the jokes were overused, like the whole stickle pickle thing.
Stickle? Hilarious.
I was just like, this is so stupid, and I love it. Like, what is it with Don Knotts? I don't know. What is it with that guy?
So suddenly you become obsessed with it. You become focused on like Stickle Pickle.
Yeah.
You make like a company, Stickles Pickles, and then you launch and become the Pickle King.
Pickles.
Pickle King of Minnesota.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, you got some trivia for us?
Oh, I've got trivia. Don't you worry about it. There actually was a bunch of trivia for this guy. It's fairly famous because Don Knotts, this was one of the few films that Don Knotts really like starred in. He had that 5-picture deal. So there's a lot of stuff known to it. It's definitely a notable film for Wikipedia to have a Wikipedia thing. And I'll get to my update on my Wikipedia
we need to
adventures
know.
later. So the trivia for this film had its premiere on January 20th, 1964 at the WWII Underwater Theater in Spring Hill, Florida. It claims it was the world's first underwater movie premiere. Although I've seen in a couple places that was false, that similar spots in Florida had done underwater premieres before, including one where the reporters actually had to don scuba suits and watch the film on an underwater screen.
How could you hear it?
I don't know. Like
Maybe
a
it's a silent
drive-through?
film.
No, like a drive-through film, probably. Something similar to
Come on,
that.
drive-in?
Drive-in, sorry.
Well, you can listen on a radio there.
That's what I mean. They probably had like little things you clipped in.
And they're scuba suits.
I don't know, Kyle. I didn't do that depth of research, okay?
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Well, I am
Anyways.
interested for when we do our mini movies.
When we do our underwater drive-in.
Yeah.
The scene where the German U-boat Wolfpack was set in a line was originally an animation scene in the movie Action in the North Atlantic 1943. That movie that everyone knows, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So with a gripping title, Action in the North Atlantic 1943.
I do like it.
Yeah. Usually I highlight which submarines are in the film, like which ones played the submarines. This wasn't a case. It was clearly all models for the submarines and then sets. So there were some naval ships, whatever. But I'll talk about it. The USS Alfred A. Cunningham was a naval ship featured in the film. Another ship that was used was the USS Galveston. It was referred to as the USS Los Angeles in the film. And it was decommissioned. The ship that was used was decommissioned in 1963. In the beginning, we see a ship going down a launch. That is stock footage of the SS Fred Morris going down the slipway in New Jersey in 1940.
Really?
Yep. And the ship was actually later acquired by the U.S. Navy, and it was commissioned as the USS Otis. Okay, so this is interesting too. 5 of Don Knotts' roles were immortalized at his grave with a bronze plaque. So this is a few roles that maybe Zach would be interested in furthering his education on Don Knotts, since he loved this one so much, 9.5. Maybe the other ones will also be 9.5 movies for him.
Maybe even higher.
Maybe higher.
Maybe.
So Deputy Barney Fife was obviously on there. That was his Andy Griffith show. He won a whole bunch of Emmys awards for it. He won, I think, 5 Emmy awards. He's the most supporting actor Emmy awards in history. I think tied. But also on there was Luther Heggs from The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Oh, yeah.
The Denver Kid from Hot Lead, Cold Feet. Roy Fleming from The Reluctant Astronaut, which sounds pretty good. And of course, Henry Limpet from The Incredible Mr. Limpet. So Incredible Mr. Limpet is on his plaque at his grave.
Is it the fish or is it his face?
It's the human being.
Oh, lame.
God,
It
I wish
is,
it was
a mistake.
Mount Rushmore, like from the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It should have been. So what we're saying is road trip to his grave so we could change it. We're just going to, we'll take a night. We'll just change it. So Brom, you said you did some work on like a naval ship and making a sign, right?
I did, yeah.
So can we take that grave and change it so it's the fish, Mr. Limpet?
Absolutely.
There we go. Let's do it. So, listeners, when you hear of someone getting arrested for vandalizing Don Knotts' grave, you know who it is.
You want
it's
you want a
Brom.
satin silver aluminum or a brass bronze? What are you
It's
thinking?
got to be bronze. We got to match. We can't just change it. All right.
We could. It'd be funny.
So an interesting thing is that since 1996, there's been multiple rumors of this film being remade
96
for release. Yeah.
over 20 years.
Yep. So in 1996, Steve Rudnick and Leo Benvenuti were hired as writers for a remake of Mr. Limpet. By 1997, Jim Carrey had entered negotiations to star in the title role and was confirmed in February 1998 when Steve Odenkirk was hired as a writer and director. Knotts was aware of the plans and even wrote in his autobiography about how the movie was getting remade.
Wait, isn't Odenkirk, Zach, is that the guy who did Kung Pao?
It is.
Oh my,
that's
that
awesome.
movie. It's like a pound of nuts.
That's a lot of nuts.
Roughly $10 million was spent on animation tests to digitally map Carrey's motion-captured human face onto a fish body.
How much?
$10 million.
Holy
But apparently it was
shit.
bad. And that's unsighted. I actually couldn't find anything to confirm this online. But apparently that was abandoned because it didn't look very good.
You imagine, hey, we just spent $10 million. It sucked. Sorry.
I would have loved to have seen that. I picture like it being like the early stages of like when you see Nicolas Cage as Superman, like that kind of shit.
Yes.
So in 1999, Odenkirk left the project, and then Carrey followed suit a few months later. In April 2000, Warner Bros. Hired Mike Judge, the creator of Beavis and Butthead, as a director and co-writer, with either Robin Williams, Chris Rock, Mike Myers, or Adam Sandler in consideration for the lead role. Filming was set for early 2001, but never happened. In 2009, the director of Enchanted was attached to direct, and Zach Galifianakis was reported to be in talks for the lead role. And then in 2011, Richard Linklater, I think Oscar nominated, maybe winning, I can't remember, entered negotiations to helm the project, and was actually announced in 2014. And then Femke Rolting and Tommy Pilata began work on the animation. And so then, as part of that, with Linklater, John Hamm, Danny McBride, Sarah Silverman, Kevin Hart, Josh Gad, Keegan-Michael Key, and Jordan Peele were in talks for various roles in the film. But then in August 4th, 2014, Linklater left the project to start his next film, which ended up being Everybody Wants Some. So, that's a long time of a lot of different rumors.
Yes.
What do we think as different people for the main character? So these are all people who were considered for main character of the film. Who do you think would have been the best?
That was a lot of big comedic names.
So Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, Adam Sandler, or our boy Zach Galifianakis.
Whew.
I'd go Robin Williams on it.
I mean, now we can't.
Well,
Rest
we
in
can't
peace.
now. Zach Galifianakis, I think, would be too odd.
Now it's got to be Zach, though, because the rest of the people are kind of out of the game a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not Adam anymore.
So that's what we'll have to do in the time of. So at the time of.
In their prime, I'd say Jim Carrey.
I would have also said Jim Carrey. I think it
In
makes
his
the most
prime,
sense for Don
90s
Knotts.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
Yeah. Not
And that's
Adam
when he would have
Sandler.
been in it. Adam
Yeah.
Sandler at this time would have been.
Oh, God.
No, this is like Billy Madison type stuff. He wouldn't have been good at this.
Well, Adam Sandler, when Adam Sandler was in consideration, it would have been 2000. So yeah,
It's like
he still would have
Click.
been. Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like in between his
Oh, yeah.
big heyday ones.
90s, definitely Jim Carrey. I agree with that.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think Mike Myers could have done something interesting with it.
Yeah, I think he'd maybe be my second. Maybe Robin Williams.
Oh, I forgot one though. What about Ed Harris?
Oh.
Well, yes.
Especially the motion capture where it's a fish, just has like Ed Harris's face on it.
And they'd have to do. It'd be really interesting how they tried to do the motion capture on his abs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ed Harris would actually bring me closure to this film if he was Stickle and
Oh wow, I like
Bessie basically left the Don Knotts, the Mr. Limpet character for Ed Harris. That would make sense to me. I'm like, well, fuck it. I might as well be a fish.
I think I 100% agree with that too. All right. Okay. So I got two more things and I'm totally going to wrap up. Don't worry, guys. Phantom Zone. So let's get into it.
Yes.
Engage the Phantom. Phantoms engaged, sir.
So, Charles Meredith played Fleet Admiral in the film. He also was featured in Submarine Command as Admiral Tobias, and I was a little worried. I thought maybe he was going to take a demotion. No, also an admiral in that film.
Perfect.
Arthur Franz was Lieutenant Arnie Carlson in that film, and Lieutenant Commander Don Landon in the Ronald Reagan film Hellcats of the Navy. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, President Ronald Reagan could not have possibly been in 2 submarine films. You're right. He wasn't. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use another one that Arthur Franz was in called The Atomic Submarine. And he features Lieutenant Commander Richard Reef Holloway. And that's a patented Phantom Zone psych out. Pew, pew, pew. I stole it from you, Brom.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a sub double play. Pew, 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 pew.
Brett Halsey is Dr. Carl Nielsen Jr. in The Atomic Submarine, is also Lieutenant David Shore in Submarine Seahawk. Finally, we get to one we've seen before with Paul Maxwell, who played Lieutenant Commander Bill Holohan, XO, in Submarine Seahawk, but he was also featured in Madam Sin as Connors. And we've used that film before in a very tenuous way, using accused murderer Robert Wagner in Goldmember, and then going through Gwyneth Paltrow to the Sky Captain, World of Tomorrow. But you know what? I decided this time I no longer support murder. I know it's a controversial position to take. I don't support murder. I'm sorry, guys.
I think that might be the second time that's been mentioned on this podcast.
What, not
that we
supporting
don't
murder?
support murder.
We don't support it. I know it's political correctness run amok, but I do not support murder. And we've grown and learned over the years. So instead, I'm going to go through Bert Kwok, who played Scarred Operator in Madam Sin. That was his
title.
Scarred Operator. To You Only Live Twice, which is a true classic. It stars Teru Shimada, etc., etc., etc. Because we've used that one a million times.
Wow.
So I've learned. I've grown.
Yeah.
I've learned to live and love again through Phantom Zone.
Live and learn.
And then one last thing, a little update for the listeners about my wiki adventures. Last week I said that I had created a wiki page for Steel Sharks because it deserves it. It is a notable film. I was informed that my wiki page had been rejected because Steel Sharks was not considered notable enough to be a Wikipedia page, which is false and slanderous to Steel Sharks, a notable picture in a notable actor's filmography known as Gary Busey. Come on. Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
Anyways, I did a whole bunch of research. I found some books that include references to it, including, I think it was Real Bad Arabs is the name of one of them. Real being R-E-E, it's a pun. R-E-E-L. Real Bad Arabs, about how Arabs are portrayed in cinema, and one of the entries is on Steel Sharks. So, fuck you, Wikipedia, because I'm going to put that reference in there. And then you're going to... How about you tell me that it's not notable when books are talking about it? Books with pages that I have to read with my eyes. How about that one? Boom.
Wikipedia rant right there.
Yeah.
We want to thank our sponsor, Wikipedia.
So next week you'll get an update as I'm going to do those updates and see if I get rejected again.
All right. Keep us
That's crazy.
in the loop on the Wikipedia quest.
Oh, I will.
It's time. It's world wide. Boop. Can you do that again real quick? Boop.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so good. It was like the exact same.
It was close.
So today I went with this class of submarine because it also is recently popped up in the news. I thought, why the heck don't we go ahead and talk about this? So India, you know, that country over there.
Sure.
Subcontinent.
It's a subcontinent.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
A lot of people have. They have a class called the Arihant class, and I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but in English it translates to Vanquisher of Enemies.
What?
Which I saw another translation which just said Slayer of Enemies. I'm like, these are pretty awesome. So
I literally have a boner right now.
Yeah.
Why can't we have better class names like that? Balau class?
And then the UK's got their
Vampire
Dreadnought class.
Dreadnought, yeah. All kinds of stuff.
They're pretty slick.
Ugh.
So anyway, I recently have picked up a book, and I've been learning about these submarines. It's an H.I. Sutton book that you can identify.
Yes, Sutton.
Yeah, really good stuff. He knows who I'm talking about. He pointed me in his direction a really long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an SSBN, or as the U.S. submariners refer to them, as a boomer. So basically what these things are is they are the large submarines that we use as nuclear deterrents. So that Triomphant class I talked about from France, that's one of them. So basically, if somebody launches a nuke at your country, you've got a submarine somewhere with a nuke that you're going to launch at their country. So it just keeps everybody in check. So this is the first ballistic missile sub built by someone other than the permanent members of the UN Security Council. Kind of interesting. The specs on this thing, it's 367 feet long, which is shorter than the usual boomers.
Yeah, that's pretty small.
Mm-hmm. The speed, while it's surfaced, which this doesn't seem... This
accurate.
Seems like... Yeah, when I tell you the horsepower, you're going to be like, wait, what? So, well, it's surfaced, it can go 12 knots, submerged 24 knots, go down to a depth of 980 feet. But the nuclear reactor, the water reactor, can generate, and I verified this because I thought that number looks insane, 111,000 horsepower. You think it could go a little faster?
Maybe. I don't know. That's a lot of horses to tie up to a submarine and run it on land.
Yeah, I guess they can only go so fast.
And how many ropes do you have for the horses?
Oh, it's probably weighing them down.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, on them, they can have, and this was in the news and today, so Wikipedia updated this very fast.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Wikipedia
did what?
Yeah. So they can hold 12 K-15 SLBM missiles, which have a 405 to 1,026 mile range, and they can hold one nuclear warhead on them, or they can hold 4 K-4 SLBM missiles with a 2,200 mile range. They hold 95 people. These subs are very similar to the Russia Akula class, and so to prep themselves for using these subs, India actually rented an Akula class sub from Russia and trained on that. The first one of these was built in 2009, and it underwent a lot of trials, and it was finally ready for the sea, commissioned in 2016. So that's a lot of years of testing. And the second boat should be commissioned sometime later this year or in 2019, and the newer ones can hold even more missiles than these other ones. And that's about it.
Well, there we go.
Okay.
Now we'll be ready for war against India.
We will.
We know all the information. Me and you, I'm talking about, not the U.S.
No, we don't need it.
We'll be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2 versus a billion.
Sounds like a movie. All rights reserved.
Let's keep going.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So, do you guys have any sub news? I have some here.
I don't have
because
any.
Mustard Man's out.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
All right. So, like I just said there with the missiles that being in the news, India has equipped the latest nuclear-powered submarine with the K-15, which is a longer range, smaller nuclear warhead with a 435-mile capacity. And basically, the defense minister, with a name that I can't even come close to trying to pronounce, said that this is a great step forward because it's going to allow them to produce, more advanced missiles in the future.
Cool.
So there's that. And then also, the keel was laid down for the USS Montana.
Nice.
It will be...
It's going to be 800? It's going to be 800.
800 what?
Is it going to be SSN 800?
Oh, I don't know.
What? You don't know?
No, I don't know that. But it's going to be the most advanced Virginia-class sub we have. Should be completed, launched by 2020.
Woo!
That's going to be a big-time celebration. What episode will we be up to by then?
Like 28.
Hiatus.
Yeah.
All right, Brom, what do you got for us?
All right. Tube 3 ready to fire, sir.
Commence the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give it to me.
Well, everyone's favorite podcast they never knew they needed has got 20 episodes in the book. So I am wanting to share, as I did a couple weeks ago, I gave everyone an update on what our top 5 movies were at that point, ratings-wise. Want to give everybody an update 20 episodes in what our bottom 5 movies are. All right. So.
Not this one, because of Zach.
I skew the results.
This one's firmly out of the cellar. It's actually going to be like right in the middle. But in the bottom 5, number 5 from the bottom, we got Below. This was one we just reviewed a couple weeks back. Pretty mixed reviews on that one, with me being the top end of the spectrum, and I think
we
Alex
really made
being
fun of
the
you about
lowest.
that.
Yeah, that started the whole sort of World War Brom discussion with sticking me in a torpedo tube because I liked that movie too much, but sticking to it. I gave it a 6.75. Next highest was Kyle with a 3.5. Actually, I lied. Jamie gave it a 4, and then Kyle 3.5.
Definitely gave it a 4.
Zach gave it a 2, and Alex gave it. He was determined to give it a tick above Agent Red, which he gave a 0.69. So he gave Below a 0.7 for a grand total average of 3.39.
I don't even remember this movie.
Don't you remember all the
Zach Galifianakis?
It's Macbeth.
Oh, it's a horror film. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, and all the most popular baby name that year was Below because of the movie.
Yeah, that was a Zac Fact. Good remember.
That's why, and that's why they named that Johnny Depp film Blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we
That
go.
sounds like a good film. We'll also call ours Blow.
Yeah.
Then they released it. They were like, wait, what?
Fourth worst. 20 episodes in the book. This was our 20th episode. Steel Sharks, Gary Busey, Billy D. Williams, Billy Warlock.
Billy
That's
D. Williams
unacceptable.
was in that?
Oh, yeah. He did not have to stand for the entire filming, basically. They're like, sit here and say some lines. He's like, good.
My kind of movie.
Probably filmed it in like 2 hours in his scenes.
He kept on turning to people being like, this reminds me of when I was in the Millennium Falcon, right?
Can't believe they got him for that.
Kyle, you gave this a 3. Jamie gave it a 3.5. I gave it a 3, and our guest host, Patrick of BadMovieTwins.com, gave it a 3.
That's BadMovieTwins.com.
Ooh. I was thinking about that today, that movie, because the episode just launched, and I was like, did I go a little low on it? I don't know. The acting was just not there.
I was in between a 3 and a 4, somewhere in there.
The quality wasn't there, but I thought it actually wasn't. It wasn't nearly. It was as competently made as something that bad can be. Kind of.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a Lifetime movie if they tried their hand at a corny action movie.
Great.
All right.
Average score of 3.13. Third worst, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Oh, I fucking hated that film.
Episode 10.
Yeah, I go back to it a lot, trying to remember what I gave it, because a lot of my movie scores are based on, okay, well, I didn't enjoy this movie. Was it as bad as Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea? And then I go from there. Score-wise, it was given a 2.5 by Kyle, a 3 by Jamie, a 2 from Alex. Where are we at here? 3 from Zach, and a 3 from myself, for a total average there of 2.7.
Yeah, that movie sucked.
That movie was bad. Second from the bottom, Agent Red.
Obviously.
Yep.
That's the one I missed.
It's not competently made.
It's great.
I almost want to watch it again.
You said it was an amalgam of like a bunch of different like clips and movies, right?
It's just, it was basically reconstructed from footage that was unusable. So they were like, I don't know what to do about this. So they just cobbled it together.
Somehow legal. That movie came together to become a 1 from Kyle, a 1 from Jamie, and a 0.69 from Alex for a average of 0.9.
I never thought I'd see something worse than it. And yet
what's
number
did.
1?
But before we do it, a quick honorable mention is Operation Petticoat. Operation Petticoat missed the list, but by quite a big margin. Actually, it got a 4.94 average score.
Of me.
Yeah, you kept it out.
Thank you. You're welcome, guys.
You're welcome, Cary Grant's family.
I have a question, Ben.
Yeah.
Where are you getting where's your data? Where are those results coming from? Because the sheet that Kyle has shared with me does not have the same math.
I've been keeping track in an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, so who do we
you have
trust?
different numbers from reviews from people, or are you just going by like IMDb reviews?
I'm going from our reviews. I thought that's what that was.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah, like Kyle, like for example, on the spreadsheet that's shared with me, Kyle has Stinger with a 0.04.
Right, but we haven't gotten to number one yet.
You just spoiled it.
Oh shit! Did I just? I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Cut that. Cut all of it. Yeah, just cut that whole part.
It's all right. You probably added more drama to it because we all know at the very bottom of our list is Stinger, as Kyle gave it an eighth of an inch. Jamie gave it a 0. I gave it a 0.
I do not eat any of that.
You have to eat some of it, man.
What's funny is it's just impossible. We'll never see a movie that's worse than it. But if there was one that I watched where I was like, I'd rather watch Stinger, I'm not sure what I would do. Probably just kill myself.
That concludes the countdown. Stinger with a 0.04, 4/100ths of a point.
Woo!
Sorry, Ben. I was getting that mixed up with Agent Red scores.
It's all right, man. All good. How about some of those sweet, succulent Zac Facts?
Are we ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
I mean, let's get the drum roll going, guys.
Zac Facts and Zac Facts when you're going down.
Fact. All right, here we go. Zac Facts, it's Zac Facts when you're going down. Get some Zac Facts when you're going down. Zac Facts. The Incredible Mr. Limpet, 1964. Fact number 1. Despite what many think, none of the film was animated. Fact.
All right.
Well, it did say that's a fish that they'd never even seen before, so how do we know what we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know.
Could be a fish that just looks like it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
The cell-shaded pixel fish.
Cell-shaded. Yeah. Fact number 2. After its release, the Navy began their own secret operation to use fish to locate submarines, and they called it Operation Fish Find Submarine in Ocean, but they were unsuccessful.
Jamie almost put his head down on the desk when you
started. I was like, I knew where this is going. Yeah.
Dude, you can't tell me somebody out there hasn't tried something like that.
I would have called it.
Give me this dolphin trainer. Let's figure this out.
I would have called it Operation Limp Bizkit, and that's where the band got its name.
That would have been a great Zac fact.
That was the inspiration for their Chocolate Starfish album.
Oh,
yep. Oh, look at you, all over it.
Yeah, you got the name at the tip of your tongue. It's like you're listening to it right now.
Fred Durst.
Here's another fact for all you fact fiends. The director wanted the movie to feel authentic. Therefore, he used real World War II Nazis.
Wow.
Perfect for a children's film.
Yeah, I mean, it was appropriate. They were later tried, probably, but...
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they all got them in the same room together.
They would have to.
Probably the same ones from Submarine X1.
Yeah, they're like, here, if you do these American films, we will lessen the sentence a little bit. Psych!
Here's a fact that Pete is not going to like. During filming, the backup janitor accidentally put salt water in the goldfish tank and killed them all.
The backup janitor.
They had to write in that the wife wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're all dead. We got to get rid of them. It's like, I'll write it in. It's a major part of the rest of this film. In fact, we have none of the script left. It was all about him in this fish tank aquarium.
We got 2 more facts, everybody. 2 more facts. Limpet was the number 1 pet goldfish name in 1964. However, it dropped to second in 1965 to Thunderball.
Mm. Mm-hmm. That's actually a pretty good goldfish name.
Yeah, it's Thunderball.
It's not bad. I would call my goldfish Thunderball.
You guys want to come check my fish out? Did you name it? Yes. Thunderball.
Thunderball.
I'm a big James Bond fan. All right, the last fact. The Incredible Mr. Limpet is the second highest grossing World War II Nazi submarine fish animated film of all time. The first film is Chad the cartoon fish saves the day and ends World War II by eating Nazi submarines with friends. There you
Wow.
go.
I missed that one. Hopefully we don't have to watch it.
No, we will.
Oh, God.
That's a fish named Chad.
Right? You'd be a dick.
Thank you for that, Zach. That was riveting.
Thanks, guys. You're welcome. Enjoy it. Hashtag Zac Facts. Hashtag Zac Facts for life.
Thanks for listening to Submersion. Find us on SoundCloud and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Can't get enough of us? Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every Thursday. And if you like what you heard, please go ahead and give us a rating.
There's nothing like realizing your importance to the world to make a man out of you, even if that man is a fish.